Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Spent a lot of time watching some Florida Gators film over the last couple of days and want to hop on and talk about what this offense did in 2023 and how I think it takes that step in 2024. And I want to start with Graham Mertz, a player that, kind of just got grilled when Florida brought him in through the transfer portal. You saw some SEC quarterback rankings with him ranked dead last in the conference. I would argue that Graham Mertz is one of the better quarterbacks returning in the SEC heading into that 2024 year. And I think more importantly, you saw not only Graham Mertz, but Billy Napier and the offensive staff grow in their confidence level of Graham Mertz running this offense. The back half of that Florida Gators season before Graham Mertz got hurt, you saw them kind of let Graham Mertz off the leash a little bit. And if they can continue that heading into the 2024 year, this is an offense that I quite frankly think takes a lot of people by surprise. After watching some film, I have four things I would like to see the Florida Gators do a little bit better in 2024, and kind of answering that question, how does Florida take that next step in that 2024 year on the offensive side of the football? Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. And it has been a blast talking this program, whether we're doing deep dives into these position groups, talking about the Gators on the high school recruiting trail. You guys continue to show a ton of love to the boys. Can't thank y'all enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with Graham Mertz and kind of putting Graham Mertz in a position to really take over this offense. And that's the number one thing we'd like to see heading into 2024. And I say, let Graham Mertz cook. What exactly do I mean by that? You go back to the numbers heading or in that 2023 season, Graham Mertz, top 10 in the country in completion percentage with an offensive line that really failed to give him a lot of time to deliver footballs. You look at what you want to see Billy Napier in this Florida Gators offense take that step in 2024. I would like to see Graham Mertz attack the deeper third. Let Graham Mertz push the ball down the field. He showed on the film that he can make those throws. And I think Billy Napier just did not put enough confidence in Graham Mertz to push that football down the field. You take a look at some of the numbers, and Graham Mertz's average depth of target, only 6.7 yards down the field. That's one of the lowest that you'll see across the Power Five. Only 29% of his throws traveled 10 plus yards through the air. Those numbers aren't high. And I think that tells you that I don't know if Billy Napier had a ton of confidence in what Graham Mertz could do attacking that deeper third. But when you go back and watch the film, he grades out extremely well, pushing the ball down the field. And why I think this is vital for the Florida Gators in that 2024 year is you look at how this Florida offense is structured. It's kind of structured on two things. One, running the football is probably the first thing we got to talk about. When you have a quarterback that is not pushing the ball down the field, not threatening defenses with what they can do, attacking that deeper third, you see on the film a lot of times opposing defenses run their safeties into the box, put 7, 8 guys in that tackle box, stopping the Florida run game, because they're not necessarily scared of what Graham Mertz and this offense can do pushing the ball down the field. And if you can just show on the film, and in that 2024 year one, Graham Mertz attacking down the field, you might have defenses respect this Florida Gators offense a little bit in terms of what they can do down the field. You might not see 7, 8 guys in the box consistently like you did in the 2023 season. And I think the second thing that's massive about this, and this kind of goes beyond just hitting more explosive plays down the field, Florida Gators, this offense is predicated on getting yards after the catch, right? They threw for about 3,000 yards during that 2023 season. Over 1,900 of those yards came after the catch. And that's not the number that bothers me the most. I think what I'm most excited about is you saw on the film this opposing defenses and secondaries really squeeze down on the Florida Gators and their passing attack. And so when you're trying to get the football out quick to your guys in space, guys like Eugene Wilson, when you don't have the presence of pushing the ball down the field, it doesn't really create much space for your guys to work after the catch like you want to see in this Florida Gators offense. So if you start letting Graham Mertz push the ball down the field a little bit more, one, you're probably going to hit some more explosive plays. You go back to the film, Graham Mertz has an arm. There was a reason he was a top 100 national prospect coming out of high school. The arm talent is there. The ability to push the football down the field is there. They just didn't ask Graham Mertz to do it that much. And what you saw was, all right, when we're trying to get swing passes out, when we're trying to get ends arounds to guys like Eugene Wilson, there wasn't that much space to operate because defenses were squeezing down on this Florida Gators offense so much. If you push the ball down the field, you're going to allow a better run game. You're not going to see as many loaded boxes, but more importantly, in that passing attack, you're going to create more space for guys like Eugene Wilson to get the ball and work after the catch. That's the number one thing you like to see Florida do a better job of, and you started to see it towards the end of the year, and they put up multiple games where they were scoring 30-plus points. This is a Florida Gators offense that I think has the tools and the personnel to be a very good offense in 2024. I think you just got to – I think the coaching staff has to have a little bit more belief in what this offense can do. Now, the number two thing, and again, this is probably right up there with letting Graham Mertz cook, is the offensive line needs to improve. We talked about the run game. They only averaged 4.1 yards per carry. That was 72nd in the country. Their run game just was not as efficient and as effective as you saw in the 2023 season. Largely, I think part of this not really stretching defenses out, but the offensive line left a lot to be desired. And I think partially Graham Mertz wasn't given enough time to push the ball down the field, right? When you're trying to hit those plays, attacking the deeper third, you need the offensive line to hold up in protection. And quite frankly, they just didn't. So as much as I want to get at Billy Napier for not taking those shots down the field, I can see why he was a little bit scared of it, because that offensive line, guys like Damian George Jr., just weren't giving Graham Mertz enough time to let his receivers get open down the field. Now, you take a look at what Florida did. I'm optimistic about what this offensive line can be in that 2024 season. You grab a guy like Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, who I think we're all very confident can play tackle at the Power 5 level. You have a guy like Austin Barber. You have a guy like Devin Manuel, who I probably think starts for the Florida Gators in that 2024 year. You suddenly feel a lot better about what the tackles look like, and that was the problem for Florida in the 2023 season. The tackles just they kind of just were getting beat. I mean, that's kind of as simple as it is. Damian George Jr., I think, gave up 26 pressures on the year. Damian George Jr. kicking into guard, I'm actually kind of optimistic about what that looks like. But you look at this offensive line, Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, Austin Barber, Devin Manuel, you suddenly feel a little bit better about the depth and competition at that tackle spot. And if this offensive line takes a step, it's going to help in twofolds. One, you're going to get the run game going better. That is what this Florida Gators offense is predicated on. But if you give Graham Mertz more time in the pocket, Graham Mertz was phenomenal when he had clean pockets in 2023. If you can do that more in 2024, give Graham Mertz more clean pockets in that 2024 year, I think this Florida Gators offense takes a massive step in the right direction. The number three thing I would like to see is let your playmakers make plays. And I really liked what Billy Napier and this offensive staff were doing in terms of, hey, we are going to feed Eugene Wilson the ball. We're going to get him the football in a lot of different ways. And it worked a large way. But I feel like they treated a guy like Eugene Wilson as just a gadget player, right? Too many ends around, too many screens. Eugene Wilson on the film, he's a guy that can run routes. He's a guy that can create separation. I would like to see Florida, lean on Eugene Wilson a little bit more as a true wide receiver one in this Florida Gators offense. You bring in a guy like Jameer Dike, who I think really helps that down the field presence. Him and Graham Mertz have a lot of chemistry going back to the days in Wisconsin. More importantly, outside of a guy like Ricky Pearsall, who I don't even know if that's his strong suit as a wide receiver, you didn't really have a wide receiver that could win down the field. I think Jameer Dike could be that guy, right? He averaged over 16 yards per reception during his time at Wisconsin. If you're looking for a wide receiver that can really attack down the field, I think that's going to be Jameer Dike. And what I'm looking for that I think Florida did an okay job of, but I think they can do a lot better of a job in 2024 is find your playmakers and put them in their best spots where they can be successful. A guy like Jameer Dike, let him work vertically. A guy like Eugene Wilson, try to get him in spots where he can have the football in space and make people miss. And if you're able to do that, I think Florida takes a step in 2024. And the last thing, and this is kind of a given, but when you watch the film, you don't really realize how big of a problem this was until you go back and watch some of these games. They got to limit the stupid mistakes. right? You had so many third and short situations where you were picking up false starts, having too many men on the field. Those kind of plays cost the Florida Gators drives and, quite frankly, games in the 2023 season. And when you're playing in the SEC and the margins are so small, those kind of plays are all the difference when you're trying to do what the Florida Gators want to do in terms of winning football games. I get it is a very superficial comment, but you kind of watch the film and say, Billy Napier's got a better, he needs to have a better coach team. He needs to have a more disciplined team. And quite frankly, this is the year where Billy Napier needs to make that happen, right? Year one, you had some growing pains. Year two, you for sure had some growing pains. Year three, you have to limit those mistakes. You have to see this team be a well-coached, well-disciplined team. And quite frankly, if that does not happen, I mean, Billy Napier on the hot seat, that's going to be a conversation the Florida Gator fans know. I've been one of the biggest Billy Napier supporters in terms of being patient with him, let him get his players in, let him get his culture established. But if year three looks the same as year two in terms of the sloppy, undisciplined mistakes, I'm very open to the conversations about Billy Napier and the future of him as the Florida Gators head coach, because that stuff is kind of unacceptable when you're talking about trying to win SEC titles and making college football playoffs. I'm excited about this offense. Watching the film from the early weeks into the later weeks, when you play teams like Arkansas in South Carolina, you saw this offense really hit its stride. And when Graham Mertz went down, that obviously hurt. But a healthy Graham Mertz, returning guys like Eugene Wilson, potentially the offensive line taking a massive step. This is a program that I think can do some things in that 2024 year, but you got to see these kind of things happen. I'm really excited about this offense. This is something that we're going to be talking a lot about during spring practice, the spring game, and into the summer. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.